So we just come in closer on this chart, we can see that this line graph here is engine speed, and there's a spot at which they describe weak versus rich. Now, when we go to adjust the carburetor base mixture, we are trying to find this spot at which the engine speed rises up to a peak and then it just starts slowing down. And we need to find this exact spot because this is what is referred to as the baseline. And this is how we compare needles and other variables. So we need to be able to adjust the carburetor to this point at every single, anytime we have a change in timing or whatnot, we always need to make sure that we are at the same spot before we go any further with our cars. Because if you don't come back to this spot, then you won't know whether or not the changes you've made are valid or invalid. And this is also how SU describes doing the tuning on the cars, finding this baseline point. So if you have a carburetor with a fixed jet, it's the same process as the Waxstat and the HIF series carburetors. They all need to be adjusted to find this exact point on this graph. This is particularly important for carbs with Waxstat and bimetallic strips. So the HIF carburetors have the bimetallic strip, and it makes adjustments to the mixture based on the temperature of the fuel. So they are intended to be adjusted at this exact spot so that they can operate their mechanism properly. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to over-enrich the idle mixture and then lean it off so you can see what it looks like going from too rich back to correct on the baseline mixture. So right now you can see that you're running 8.5, too much fuel at idle. However, the idle speed is fairly stable. So this is one of the key points I want to make. You always want to find your baseline idle mixture going in the lean direction. Once again, we are going in the lean direction on this chart. So if I look at where we are in relation to where this chart is, we are probably at this farthermost point, given the fact that we have a fairly stable idle, but we are actually too rich at idle. So we're actually most likely on this end of this chart. So we need to go back to this lean point and find this lean point. So I'm just going to screw the mixture nut inwards to lean it out until we just see the idle speed start falling back down and becoming unstable. Basically, the instability of the idle is what we're looking for. And again, I'm just turning the idle mixture nut inwards to reduce the fueling. So, I'm going to pause here briefly because we are still pretty stable on the idle mixture, idle speed, and idle mixture is still good. This is a safe number to have for your idle at, but given my ignition system and the power that it has, I can go leaner than 0.95, so that's what I'm going to do. So, if we watch the gauge now, we'll notice that there is some oscillation to the idle speed. So we're fluctuating, say, about 40 RPMs at idle, and we're having a slightly less stable mixture reading here. So I'm approaching the point where the ignition system is going to no longer be able to handle the mixture that it's being provided. So I think I've actually gone slightly too far with my idle mixture. And that's how you find baseline, is utilize a tachometer. And ideally, if you have a wideband gauge, combine the two to determine where your baseline mixture is at.